Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe who are not only thought leaders, but those who are considered domain experts and the ladies and gentlemen who are extraordinary and have uh, made a considerable amount of contribution to the fields that they're working in. Today, we're interviewing one of our esteemed members. His name is Mr. Zeeshan Baig. He's the country GM at Careem. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Anza. Pleasure to be part of this show.
Thank you for your time. So, whenever someone hears Careem, they already think of disruption, right? And being a country GM of a big name like Careem, everyone would be interested in how did you end up here? Where did your journey begin? Did you get lucky? Did you work hard? How did you reach here?
Absolutely. So thank you very much for this recognition. So I think in Careem, we believe that Careem is a big responsibility for all of us because the kind of impact we're making, on lives of people, it is extremely important to make sure that we're really simplifying lives of people. So we consider Careem as a responsibility, all the colleagues in Careem, Pakistan. About my story, so I was born and raised in Pakistan. So I was raised in an armed forces family, which makes me quite disciplined and
An
sometimes
army
painfully
brat.
punctual. Air Force background, actually. My father used to be in Air Force, so which makes me quite actually painfully punctual as well. I studied in Pakistan, did my MBA from LUMS, then moved abroad, worked in management consulting for almost 6.5 years, where all my projects were in the Middle East and the US. So I was working with a company called Deloitte in their strategy and operations consulting wing. So I'm back in 2000. So I joined Deloitte back in 2012. I was there till 2017. In 2017, I realized that I wanted to do something which was more impactful and something which makes me which makes me stay closer to my family, my parents in Pakistan, since I'm the only son. So I kept on exploring various opportunities to make an impact in Pakistan, and I had a few principles. Three of them were basically that opportunity has to be in Pakistan, something that really changes the life of Pakistanis, and thirdly, something which allows me to be closer to my family in Pakistan as well. So I came across Careem, and the moment I heard about Careem and this opportunity, so I actually fell in love with the impact company is actually making. So 2017 June, I actually joined Careem as an operations manager for Punjab region, and I worked as an operation manager and then got promoted into a role of operations director. Worked there on that role for almost 2 years. 2019 was the time when I got promoted as a head of the country, and since then I've been working in Careem. We've
Lovely.
made some
So it's a short
amazing
journey.
impact. Yes, so we've made some amazing impact in terms of really simplifying lives of people. And we've also gone through very turbulent times, especially when COVID hit. Transport was one of those sectors which was really, call it disruption or whatever. So
Absolutely. It
some
was
tough times.
badly hit. I couldn't agree more. But sir, you spoke about, how you're changing the lives of people, right? And it makes me think that the world around us has changed completely. So, think when you think about movies, you think Netflix. When you think about transport, you think Uber and Careem. When we talk about ordering food, we think of Food Panda. So there has been a very big impact of technology on our lives. How do you see technology changing our lives?
Yeah. So I think rightly pointed out. So to be honest, technology has absolutely changed the way we live in good and bad sense. Both there are pros and cons as well. But truly, if you look at areas where technology has really impacted us, our lifestyle, health, generally attitude of youth as well, and then all the businesses. So every business has also transformed. Few good things. So, for example, if I talk about Pakistan, there's a lot of work that was done on mechanization of agriculture. So there's a lot of technology that has been introduced in agriculture, which allows our farmers to improve the yield, which was never even thought of before. Similarly, if you talk about transportation, like who could have imagined that a female at 2 a.m. in the morning would be traveling with a stranger in Karachi, right? Companies like Careem and Uber and many others, they only made it possible. So transportation itself has absolutely changed. If you talk about communication, earlier, if you can recall, people at least who were born in 80s can recall there used to be broadcast, news, and everything. So information was for masses. Now you can actually be very selective on what kind of information you want to see and hear. You know, so information from a mass communication, it has actually changed into a selective information. Similarly, if you talk about education and learning process in general, it has absolutely evolved. I still remember early in the days, people used to go to libraries. Now I think rarely people go to libraries. Everything is available on YouTube, digital. There are so many educational platforms as well. So truly, in every aspect of life, whether it's lifestyle or health or education, technology has brought a significant change. Now, while there are so many good things, there are some negative elements associated to excess of technology as well. One is, of course, we are depleting our resources. I really feel bad when I see environmental concerns generally across the world. But with let's say technology coming in, we are fastly and very rapidly depleting all our resources. There are serious health concerns, especially in children these days. I have two sons, alhamdulillah. Both of them, to be honest, are addicted to YouTube and those
And then
social
there's
media.
Zoom fatigue as well.
And then, of course, for corporations, there's Zoom fatigue as well, which is actually impacting health as well as your family lives as well. And of course, with technology, there are a lot of other baggages such as pollution as well. That's a separate element as well. So while there are some negatives, there are so many positives of the technology as well. But all in all, whether in a good sense or a negative sense, technology truly has changed our lives. And we
And
don't know
whether we
after
like it
20
or not,
years.
it's here to stay.
Sorry.
I said, and whether we like it or not, it is here to stay.
It is here to stay and it is here to change. We don't know after 20 years, probably all the mediums and technology you're using would be absolutely obsolete and people would be actually their way of life changes in another aspect as well. So it keeps on
Right.
evolving.
Absolutely. But sir, when we talk about things changing and technology changing and lives being changed, there's a buzzword these days: disruption. Now, generally, historically, it was perceived with a very negative connotation, but now in the tech world, and especially in the corporate world, now it's looked upon as if you're not disrupting the market that you're in, then you're not innovating enough. That means you're not going to be as successful. What does disruption mean for you?
Yeah, so I think one, of course, it's a buzzword, but generally, disruption is anything that radically changes the way things are done. So, to give you an example, in my view, there are two principles. One is anything that radically changes the way you work, and secondly, if the growth is actually crowdsourced. So, for example, you come up with something, a business model, and your customers are actually enabling you to grow quickly by word of mouth or by referrals or any other lever. So that for me is truly disruption. Now, to give you a couple of examples, so for example, in my view, Careem itself and Uber as well is a big disruption because on principle one, these companies radically change the way people travel, right? And secondly, the growth was on the back of customers themselves. So the growth was basically crowdsourced. A lot of people, they kept on talking about these companies. They, referred other people as well, and through word of mouth marketing as well, there was a huge component of growth that came in. So if any company, any service, any product falls into category which satisfies these two principles, for me, that's actually disruption.
Right. Absolutely. So, but speaking of the disruption that happened, now we saw globally around the world, be it other ride-hailing services as well, but also for Careem. Initially, when they launched, we saw a lot of regular taxi drivers or conventional, ride offerers as protesting because apparently it put a lot of people out of jobs. Do
Yes.
you think the onus lies on your company for doing so?
Yeah, so I think to be honest, yes, like the onus also lies on these companies as well. But I think it's initially whenever, so mind you, one thing, change is always difficult, right? Whether it's an internal change in an organization or a new business coming in, change is always very, very difficult. Now, the most resentment that's felt is because primarily there's some communication gap. Now, earlier in the days, the transportation players or the existing taxi player used to think that this company has come in and they'll actually make us go out of our jobs. But that wasn't the case, right? So they partnered with us. For example, even in Islamabad right now, we have a car type called taxi as well. So they are working in collaboration with Careem to actually earn. So I think it's a lot of times in these things, it's a matter of communication gap. So once you make those stakeholders realize that you're not here to actually move you out of the value chain, but to make you a partner, they automatically start promoting you. And that's what we experienced in Careem for transportation as well.
Right, absolutely. So, if I may take your attention to a report by the World Economic Forum on how our business is going to remain sustainable post pandemic, there's a lot of talk about multi stakeholder partnership. And when we talk about multi stakeholder partnership and different dynamics that are added to the business, I know I, for one, have been exploring the options that Careem offers now. There is also a new service that's still in beta mode called Careem Pickup, right? And Careem Delivery. And
Yeah.
what exactly does this entail? Is there an element of e-commerce to it? As in, will it make e-commerce easier for you? And what do you see the future of e-commerce in Pakistan as?
Yeah. So I think generally first I'll talk about Careem and then I'll talk about the e-commerce, e-commerce's potential in Pakistan as well. Now, Careem are basically vision is that we become a super app. Now, super app essentially, in terms of example, is like a virtual mall where there's one mall and you go into a mall and you see so many services or brands within our mall. So very same concept in the technology world, one application where our customers are able to avail multiple services. Some of those services will be owned by Careem. Few of those services will be actually owned by a third party partner as well. Now, coming back to your point, so I think currently we have three main services in Pakistan. One is rides, we call it ride hailing as well. Then there's delivery services, and then there's food delivery as well, right? So food delivery is basically catalog restaurants, and then you can order food from a particular restaurant. Now, delivery, to your point, delivery is a service where we actually use our bike fleet to allow people to send stuff or buy stuff from somewhere. Now, it is not completely overlapping with e-commerce, but it partly covers one leg of e-commerce as well, which is the last mile for e-commerce, as well as generally for any customer as well. So the service is basically any customer can send or buy anything using Careem Bike Fleet. And the value for customers is that there are a lot of things where actually there are a lot of businesses associated with Careem where they're using this service. So they want to, for example, females working making cakes or doing some sort of textile work. They want to avail some service where somebody comes in, take their stuff, and go and deliver to the customer. So a lot of those use cases also exist. And I see a lot of growth in this particular use cases. Now, coming to your second part of the question, e-commerce in general. Now, I am, to be honest, very bullish about Pakistan. It's a huge country with huge population. Now, if you look at our mobile subscriber base as well, I'm assuming it's close to now 180 million cell subscribers, which is
Right,
what
about 200.
Yes, so which is around like 80-85% tele-density, which is pretty high. And we've seen in the past double-digit growth for a good couple of years. 3G, 4G penetration is also very good. Now, if you look at our demographics, average age of our population should be close to 24, 25. Now, if a country has these kind of demographics, it is a perfect suitable company for e-commerce growth. So that's why you see players like Daraz and so many other small players growing, week on week, double digit. So in terms of opportunity, it's a huge opportunity in Pakistan. And honestly, I feel it's very, very nascent in the country. We only have probably one big player, and that too, I'm sure their monthly active base is not even more than 2 million or something, which gives us a huge addressable pool to take care of. So I'm very bullish about the future of Pakistan in general and e-commerce specifically.
That's definitely encouraging to hear. So, speaking of encouragement, what encourages you? What inspires you?
Yeah, so to be honest, there are so many things that inspire me. But I think to name a few, the biggest thing that inspires me is actually impact. Like I'm a kind of person who's very, very driven by impact, and that was the reason I joined Careem, and that's the reason I'm still with Careem. Because I tell you, the kind of examples I've seen in Careem are really, really. amazing, and sometimes you become really speechless. To give you an example, like I like few years back, I got a random cake from a female customer, thanking. She was basically thanking Careem for the fact that before Careem, she used to call her father or depend on her husband to go from one place to another place. Now with Careem coming in, she's actually enabled herself to do her own things. So that's one example of making an impact. Secondly, if you talk about captains, till date we have created more than 500,000 jobs in Pakistan through Careem's platform. Now 500,000, by any definition, even for a government, is a big number to create this many jobs. So I think this is also one kind of impact that we've actually made.
That's
And I've come
absolutely
across
inspiring.
absolutely, and I've come across stories where captains, their lives have been actually changed. Their children are now going to school because they were able to make money through Kareem's platform. So the biggest thing that personally inspires me is basically impact.
Right. And so it's great that you mentioned impact, because I, for one, did when I was doing some research on Careem, I read about two, three of these impact stories, and one that really resonated with me. I think you people were the pioneers to encourage female captains, right? Who
Absolutely. So
thought of
Kareem
that
has,
idea? And it's a step in the right direction. But did you face any challenges while doing so?
yeah. So I think generally Kareem is a very dynamic organization, and we want to always do things which are different and things which are actually social topics as well. So women empowerment is one topic which is very close to our heart. It is very close to our DNA as well. And we launched multiple initiatives on the customer front as well as captain front as well. So we were fortunate enough to have this opportunity of launching a project called Female Captains, where female captains would come in and drive different car types for Careem. So it was a very inspirational project. It was very very impactful as well. And in terms of challenges, of course, there were so many challenges. One, uh, actually changing the mindset in Pakistan was a bit of a challenge. That it was generally not accepted that people, females were driving, but we made it possible for customers to understand that it's fine that females can actually drive as well. Secondly, culturally, because a lot of historically not a lot of female were into transportation, so attracting those female captains was also very very difficult initially. And lastly, I think once we were able to sort of crack it, we saw a very healthy uptake. We still keep on focusing on it. In fact, we are actually working with a couple of NGOs and academic institutes as well to sort of scale this project as well. So generally, I think good project, very impactful. Yes, there were challenges, but I think we can really nail it.
Hats off to you for thinking of such initiatives and making them possible. Really, I mean, this is something that was unimaginable to an extent. So, how do you see the startup ecosystem in Pakistan? Since I know Kareem also started off as a startup. So, what about the younger startups here, those that are in their infancy state? They look up to Kareem. What are we doing right and what are we doing wrong?
Yeah, so I think generally, to be honest, I uh, get really, really happy and excited when I see startups, emerging in Pakistan. There's a lot of VC money coming in very, very at a very, very cheap cost, which was never like that before for Pakistan. So that's a great news, and I think Kareem has actually paved the way to act as a catalyst for a lot of these startups, because when people saw this big acquisition happening in the region for the first time, a lot of entrepreneurs got inspired, and actually a lot of ex-Kareemers started their own businesses as well, and we've seen them raising good money as well. So again, as I mentioned, for Pakistan, I'm generally very, very bullish about the progression and development of the country, and startup sector in particular. These days, I think the best thing anyone can probably do is get into the ecosystem and start doing something of your own, or at least join something which is making an impact. So I see a lot of progress happening on this front. In terms of what's happening good, uh, there's ample availability of talent. That's something really, really good in Pakistan. There are ample opportunities. That's not really good, but in good in the sense that there's an opportunity to solve those problems as well. And third good thing is there's ample VC money coming in to the country as well. So these three things makes country a perfect choice for people to start business or investors to invest in the country. On the downside, I think few things on which government is probably working on is, ease of doing business in Pakistan is again not very straightforward. So, for example, if I want to register a company today, the process is not very streamlined as compared to, let's say, Dubai or Singapore, where I can just go online, register the company within 24 hours, and you can start
Absolutely.
working.
But I think there are some
Second,
steps being taken by the SECP in, digitizing
there
the
are
whole.
there are yes. So recently we've seen a lot of progress on this front from the government as well. That's why we started seeing a lot of VC money coming into the country as well, and emergence of new startups as well. So, but historically these were some challenges. But I think Pakistan is very, very well positioned to be one of the best countries in order for these startups to be raised.
So it's inspiring to see that companies like Careem have come forward and they have such massive CSR initiatives as well. But don't you think that the government also should be doing its part in taking the necessary steps to make the country more digitized, or have a broader vision? Do you think that the steps that the government has taken so far in making the country digital are sufficient for giving for making us at par with the rest of the world?
Yeah. So the irony is, like, to be honest, there's so many things on our government's plate that probably this, like, making country more digital is probably was at the back end for some good period of time. But now recently we've seen some great progress. We've seen when it comes to connectivity, we are seeing that a lot of telcos have actually increased their penetration, and of course that happens with government policies and support as well. In terms of ease of doing business, we've seen a lot of policy changes, whether it's on the payment side from State Bank or on the pure tech side from the government as well. We've started seeing some improvements there. Also, in terms of a lot of supporting these startups in terms of getting the money into the country as well. We've seen some good projects, good initiatives from State Bank as well. So I think the ingredients are there. It's just a matter of time and making sure these things and these improvements are driven very, very quickly to make sure the impact gets to a wider audience and entrepreneurs as well. And lastly, I think one thing where government probably needs to improve is get digitalized themselves. If you talk about payments in government as well, currently till date, probably for salary disbursement, they're using the traditional way of money transferring money, whether through bank accounts or mostly cash. So
Yeah.
government can easily adopt and get into some sort of digital payment method for their own thing. So I think if government starts adopting these things themselves, we'll see a lot of impact within these digital sector as well. And we actually seen that as well. Like, for example, Roshan account is one of a very strong example where we've actually started
Exactly,
seeing.
the Russian digital account. So, an interesting announcement, and I would, urge anyone who's a part of your financial team as well to join. We're doing a webinar tomorrow, partnering up with code-based technologies on investing in your homeland, the Russian digital account. So, that would
Excellent.
be an interesting webinar for everyone to attend. That it's by invite only. I'll share some links in the description.
Perfect.
So when you talk about, going up the corporate ladder or even succeeding in life, one cannot disregard the contributions of a mentor. Have you had a mentor in your life that plays a significant role in your development and growth?
Yes, so I think I have a very strong belief in having mentors and coaches in life. And I've had numerous coaches. So I've worked, first of all, a big inspiration for me in terms of personality is my father as well. So he started off from scratch and he ended up building his own business as well. So he's a big inspiration and he's been my mentor and coach as well. Other than that, even in corporate life, I've worked with a couple of people. I've worked with Paul Kaiser. He's guided me in a lot of things. Also within Careem, there's so many people. So Mudassir himself is a big, inspiration, big coach. So I, work closely with him as well to get inspiration. Similarly, there are other people in Careem as well who've been mentoring and coaching me. So yes, I strongly believe that every single person should have a coach. Like even if you look at, let's say, world-class players, maybe Roger Federer, right? Even Roger Federer is world
Yeah,
number one
for
tennis player,
coaches.
but he has a coach.
Yeah.
So no matter how smart you are, no matter how up in the corporate ladder you are, you always need some sort of coaching, mentoring, and a person who you can go to and talk about things very very transparently. So super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, unfortunately, we've reached the end of the session for today. It has been very engaging. We've learned a lot of new things about Careem, about yourself, and I'm sure the audience enjoyed. Upon an ending note, I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the utility of forums like CXO Global?
All right. So I think, to be honest, CXO Forum is a great forum because it allows all the thought leaders to, be under the ambit of same forum and talk about various things. So what happens at a CXO level, by the way, the biggest benefit for me is the following. What happens at a CXO level is that, in organizations, typically you don't have counterparts, right? When you are at a CXO level, right? But you always have some problems where you require some sort of guidance, some sort of mentoring or coaching, or you want to share some ideas as well. With these kind of forums, you can, I can actually reach out to CXOs in other companies and talk about my problems and brainstorm on certain solutions as well. So I think that's personally for me one of the biggest advantages of having these kind of forums. So it allows all the CXOs to, think, share their ideas with each other, talk about their problems, brainstorm on various solutions as well. So that
After,
for me the biggest benefit.
after all, that is one of the aims. We aim to contribute significantly to the knowledge economy of the globe. And we take massive pride that there are icons in Pakistan like yourself who are helping us in doing so. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Anza. It was a pleasure talking to you. So nice of you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. If you would like to know more about the kind of work Mr. Zeeshan Baig is doing at Careem, we've shared some links in the description. Please keep us updated with your comments and feedback. We look forward to them. Thank you.